I'm KK Reaper.
And I'm Luna Reaper.
And this is
A Frightful Eve.
This evening, we will be reviewing Evil Dead Rise, about a woman who finds herself in a fight for her life when an ancient book gives birth to bloodthirsty demons that run amok in a Los Angeles apartment building.
But first, the horror news.
After a bit of a financial stumble coming out of 2022, Funko has decided to expand what it has to offer its customers by expanding into tabletop games. Set in the film's universe, Scream the Game is a multiplayer survival mission where the players must evade Ghostface attacks. Among other great features, the game will also come with a Ghostface figure and free app featuring Roger Jackson's voice acting, the voice behind the masked killer in the franchise. Check out all the fast-paced fun later this year.
For those of you looking to elevate your horror reads with a twist, pick up It Came From the Closet by Joe Valise. This novel contains 25 queer and trans writers reflecting on horror movies, new and old, that made them into the fans they are today. Accounts like these are great for reigniting a love for horror by showing us films we have seen a million times front to back in a whole new light. Released October of last year.
The Boogeyman, a short story by Stephen King, will be getting the movie treatment this summer from director Rob Savage. High school student Sadie Harper and her younger sister Sawyer are reeling from the recent death of their mother and aren't getting much support from their father Will, a therapist who is dealing with his own pain. When a desperate patient unexpectedly shows up at their house seeking help, he leaves behind a terrifying supernatural entity that preys on families and feeds on the suffering of its victims. The Boogeyman will have us all checking under our beds June 2nd.
Insidious terrified fans back in 2010. This July, we revisit the Lambert family as they have grown past their memories of the further in order to live normal lives. Josh works hard to connect with son Dalton one last time before his first semester at art school. It is not long before repressed demons begin to torture Dalton, and they are once more forced to explore the final portal into the further through the Red Door.
The 2022 first-person immersion horror game Iron Lung is now getting a film adaptation from none other than famed YouTuber Markiplier. Though details about the plot are currently under wraps, while production has begun in Austin, Texas, we know Markiplier will direct, produce, and star in the film, and it will likely follow a similar concept to the game. Created by David Szymanski, the game follows an unnamed convict who explores an ocean of blood on a desolate moon in a small rusty submarine nicknamed the Iron Lung. There are no viewpoints except for the submarine's camera, and the mission is to photograph any signs of vital resources. But things only become more treacherous as you explore deeper into the gory depths.
The Boulet brothers wish you a happy halfway to Halloween this April. It's important to get your Scream on when Halloween feels so far away. Thanks to Drac Morta and Swan Thula, we now have a variety show of all creepy, campy, and kooky, with guests like Matthew Lillard, Barbara Crampton, Kevin Smith, Felissa Rose, and so many more. Why wait till October to celebrate? Soon on Shudder and AMC+.
For more information on these events, check out the links in the description below.
And now for the review of Evil Dead Rise.
Wow. What a gore fest.
Yeah. Understatement of the century.
Yes. That was definitely a wild trip.
It was. I don't think anyone had low expectations. I feel like this was another one of those trailers that made it into theaters, especially for people who did not want to see that stuff.
Yeah.
So even if you weren't a horror fan, I think everyone knew, there's a really freaky movie coming out. Did you hear?
Well, you can't expect anything less with Evil Dead more often than not. No. I was a little bit worried watching the trailers and being like, is this going to be the best scenes and then we're going to get a whole bunch of nothing else?
Right, which is a thing that tends to happen, so that's not a far-fetched worry.
Right. But boy, was that not the case.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
So, I mean, first and foremost, I guess we really have to dive into the effects and the blood and the guts and the gore and the vomit and
Yeah.
every other bodily fluid under the sun.
Oh my God. Get your shots before you watch this.
That was something, I mean, there was a lot of elements that obviously are kind of Easter eggs from other horror films.
Yeah.
One of those, don't kill me, please.
Well, now I might. What?
The scalping.
Yeah?
Terrifier 2.
I mean, I would agree with you, but I do think that's still a niche enough horror movie that I don't think scalping is unique to Terrifier 2 to be like, oh, this is a reference to that. You can have your opinion.
I do think that, I mean, yes, I won't say that it is specifically niche to Terrifier 2. I haven't personally experienced a lot of horror movies with that sort of brutality to the scalp. But the way that it's done and the fact that they show her on the dock after the fact in the same fashion that the girl from Terrifier is at, after that brutality, to me that just was very like mimicked. And considering all the other elements of horror in this, it just doesn't seem that far-fetched to me, especially with Sam Raimi and especially his appreciation for gore fests.
Sure.
I feel like it's something that he could have taken into account while working with the new cast, new directors, and everyone else that was on board for this. But yeah, I mean, we kick it right off with that opening sequence of the sister sick in the cabin, and
which is so creepy when she was like holding the book
and reading what the sister was reading. Yeah, that's that. There was a lot of, I mean, even just beyond the blood and guts, there was a lot of good elements of suspense and just sort of like that queasy, like you felt queasy watching certain scenes. It wasn't just, oh my god, like at the pure shock of it. You also felt like that, like you needed a shower afterwards.
Yeah, and I don't think this is unique to me. I think everyone goes through this, but when you see a certain painful scene, you can't help but wonder, be like, what if I was feeling that sensation?
Oh yeah,
like
absolutely.
How would I be reacting? I mean, like I stub my pinky toe and I'm down. If I took a cheese grater to the calf, I'd be like,
yeah, right.
I don't want to live anymore.
And I think that is something that they did very well with the specifics of how they attacked each character. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't just, a stab and a slash and whatever else. Like, cheese grater to the leg, like you can kind of guesstimate what kind of, yeah, exactly. Nope. And I love the fact, I really, again, they showed that in the trailer. They showed like just her coming down with it, and I was like, how are they gonna like do that, in practice? And they had, the skin come out of the cheese grater. I was like, oh Lord, like that's a lot of skin.
And she gets up 5 seconds later.
Yes, yeah.
I don't care what kind of adrenaline rush you're having. That's
Beth was a trooper for sure.
My God.
But yeah, I mean, they really killed it, with the I know. You could beat me up later. With the effects overall, with any sort of brutal kill. Mm-hmm. I know I'll let you kind of riff on the eyeball.
The eyeball.
That one didn't actually catch me as much as I feel like it got you.
Not even. I mean, I naturally have a thing with eyes, but when she bites his eyeball out, that's it's fine. We all saw it coming. It's fine. The fact that she spits it out into his brother.
I think so.
Into his brother's mouth.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw me in your peripheral vision, but I did the
Right.
close your mouth. There's an eyeball, and just
I know. You would think that, yeah.
I think I
he
gagged.
would have the foresight to know to not just be like just waiting for that to happen.
Let's talk about a money shot.
Oh God.
Terrible.
So I mean, obviously a lot of great stuff to work with.
Yeah.
Some of the ones that did kind of catch me where I was like, the head rolling up on the dock.
Yeah.
Pretty good effect generally, but I mean, like, you look at it next to a lot of the other stuff and you're like, well, that looks significantly more fake than a lot of the other stuff we're witnessing.
Yeah. I kind of enjoy that kind of stuff. Like, that's something I look at and it's like, that's great. Yeah. Where I understand.
Well, he definitely, as a character too, deserved that. So that was kind of satisfying in its own right.
Yeah.
But there was that, and the one thing that, I mean, it's a very small, aspect of it. Well, I will say that the monster at the end, the family together.
Yes.
I feel like if they were going to show it as much as they did, there should have been a little bit more cohesiveness to how the monster was designed. Because to me, it just looked like the three of them kind of like back to back to back.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really see a lot of, like, the picture that's in the Necronomicon when they're like, oh, this is what's going to happen next.
Right.
Looks much more brutal than what actually ends up being.
You want to see, like, a literal mesh.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
A little bit more Cronenberg-ish, I guess, maybe,
Okay.
But the couple of scenes where it is kept in the dark, I think, was kind of cool in that regard, because if you're going to do that, like anything else, if you keep the monster in the dark, you kind of leave it to the imagination. That probably would have been a little bit better, because it feels like they got towards the end and they were like, wow, the budget's getting real low on the effects, like we can only afford so much more going forward. And with the CGI for when they are all crawling towards who is it?
Beth?
Is Cassie
Cassie is the youngest.
The youngest. So yeah, so it's crawling towards Cassie in that little compartment right where the wood chipper is.
Yes.
And the eyes are supposed to be, Ellie's eyes are supposed to be peering through. And if you look at that scene, you can kind of see the CGI of the eyes kind of trying to, they were trying to make that pop.
Right.
Looks very, like, jittery.
Okay.
It looks kind of like, that's very, like, just nitpicky stuff. But, when you have, like, such a deep immersion and you're looking at it and you're like, wow, this is really impressive. And then all of a sudden you see something like that and it's like, don't take me out of it, you. Like,
okay.
But yeah, I mean, all in all, the minute details, everything else was like, wow.
I thought Alyssa Sutherland looked fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
Which
and she has a great look in general for that character from the alternative mom style.
Yes, and she just naturally has such sharp features to begin with.
Yeah. And that's, when you layer the makeup and the contacts and all that stuff on top of that, it's like, and the way that she contorts her face to do certain things, like when she leaps up onto the ceiling where the bathtub is, and she just sort of like, like the whole...
Well, I'm sure there's some CGI to that, because the jaw drops lower, then I'm like, that wouldn't happen.
No, of course. I mean, there's, certain human limitations to that.
You never know. There's some very talented people out there.
That is true. But even with that, you still have to have some sort of level of contortion, like, base skill to do that, and then add the CGI on afterwards. So that brings us to the Easter eggs. I think with the there's a couple of things that I noticed. Like we said, Terrifier 2. I'm convinced that there must have been some sort of thought of that in there. There's of course the boomstick.
Yeah.
And the chainsaw, all the classic Evil Dead tropes. I'll swallow your soul.
Yep.
You know.
Classic.
So I love the lineage. You know, keeping it all in the legacy.
Very nice.
And I did. There was the Elm Street shot of the hand going into the bathtub, and kind of that effect of almost like, you know, the same sort of idea of what was happening with Nancy with the glove coming up.
Right.
But I do love, I think, around that same scene, the younger brother that's hitting on Bridget. He comes up and he's like, I wanted to see if you wanted to come over. We're watching all the Nightmare on Elm Streets. And the brother goes, even the crappy ones. He's like, there are no crappy ones.
Which we've all had that conversation.
Oh, yeah. Especially us.
Oh, yes.
And the classic Shining scene, the blood pouring out of the elevator. Which
is great. You don't need to be a horror fan. Like, I think that's one of those things, like, everyone's seen that scene, even if you don't know what movie it's from. They're like, I've seen that before.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty good one.
Well, I mean, The Shining goes beyond just regular horror fans. That's something that they show in, like, movie appreciation classes and stuff, you know?
Only if they're cool.
Only if they're cool. But, I mean, it is sort of like, it's almost on that same level as, like, Psycho, you know, where it is something that is in the classics vault. Like, it is like one of those must-see movies, even if you're not a horror fan. So you definitely, I would agree with that. And the new setting of Los Angeles apartment.
Yes.
Very interesting to see Deadites and the Necronomicon and all these things outside of the camp and outside of the forest.
Yeah, I think that's pretty great how well they did it, especially when we think forest camping, middle of nowhere. It gets you back into that primal state, which I think a lot of horror movies essentially are trying to get us back to that primal fear of, you know, surviving or not.
Yep. So
to put that in an apartment building and make such a limited space feel so inescapable, pretty good.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that I did kind of question, like how they were going to make it where it was inescapable, because obviously, like my first thought when things start going awry is, why not just walk out the downstairs door, like take the elevator down and leave? And you know, they the fact that it takes place in California, so the idea of the earthquake is realistic to that end, and the fact that the apartment is like in shambles already. It all kind of ties in nicely to give you that effect of, you are stuck on this one floor and you are screwed.
Very much so.
It's unfortunate that, you know, I mean, there's always throwaway characters in a lot of these films.
Yeah.
But it really did feel like a lot of those people that were in the hallway were just so we could get more kills up.
Oh, that was touchy. The dead kid.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen someone like casually throw that in, where like most of the time it's off into the background, if at all. You know, you hear a kid scream and then it's done. Where this time you didn't even see the kill. They just threw him in the hallway. And he's just sitting there. And he's in there for a while through the view of the peephole. So
every time they look back.
It's just
dead kid.
There.
Yeah.
Dead kid.
With no arm. That was the big, I didn't even realize when she first threw him that's what happened. I thought he just died, which I was like, okay.
Impact?
I mean, like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, something along those lines. I did not anticipate the fact that, like, once you got a better look at like what that little sequence, you were like, oh, he's limbless. Which that was impressive. There was a lot of things that were kind of like boundary pushing that I was impressed by. I did not expect Ellie to throw up all over the floor for a solid 10 seconds.
That was a lot.
And it wasn't just like,
she slipped and slid in it. It was,
That's what I mean. Like, it wasn't as campy as some of the other ones were. Like, you know, like when I don't even, I mean, like The Exorcist is probably a bad example because it was scary for the time, but like, you know, he throws up on the priest and it's like,
Yeah, like the
and even in the original Evil Dead, like if any of the characters, it was like pea soup.
Yeah.
You know, this was like, wow,
sludge.
I think she's really messed up. You know, like I almost feel bad that she's experiencing this.
I just can't.
And throwing up the maggots and stuff like that. That was like, ugh.
Gross.
But yeah, I didn't expect. I think the biggest risk that they took that I think went over really well was they killed the family.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't really expecting, like Beth to be the cool aunt and stay the cool aunt, you know, like, you know, be basically being Ash in that sense. Like there's always that Ash-like character throughout most of these films.
Yeah.
In the same way that there was when they did the Evil Dead 2013.
Got it.
You know what I mean? But they orphaned Cassie.
Just that girl.
We'll never, yeah.
No.
That would actually be an interesting, and I'm sure, you know, there's a lot of talk now of Sam Raimi and all these other people involved talking about how this can just be a never-ending story, how Evil Dead can just go on and on and on. I would be very interested to see Cassie as like a legacy character come back and be, be Ash.
I did like certain scenes, and I do like that they at least killed the kids in a way that didn't give you hope. I don't know if you remember in the most recent, besides this remake, where I believe something happens to her arm to where she's trying to saw it off.
Oh, yeah.
Where at least that was on Bridget's face. You can't just saw off that part of your face.
That's true, yeah.
So it's like, she gonna die. And for a moment, I forgot about that. So when she checks on her face and it's, you know, the possession is spreading, that's when it came to me. And for everyone else who has seen these and knows how it goes, like, oh, they're screwed.
Yeah. The possession thing hadn't really dawned on me. And it's good that you bring that up because I didn't really think about that aspect of her getting cut. I was just sort of under the assumption that it was just like general possession regardless, like they were going to be possessed and it just didn't matter how it went.
No,
but I forgot about right. And so now on to some of the risks that looked like they were going to be there and kind of didn't take off, which, you know, we kind of agree is not always necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all.
With the way that they did it. I did think 100% if there was a dead kid with no arms in the shot for that long, that there was going to be the dead cat. Because everything foreshadowed that. You know, the fact that the neighbor asked about the cat way before anything happened, I was like, there's no way that it's not going to be gutted or something.
Or you assume it's even going to be the first, you know? When someone's like, well, have you seen Whiskers?
Right,
Whiskers is like dead down the hallway.
Yeah. The demon, like, you know, the first person demon just comes through the air vents and just...
right through the cat.
Right. But yeah, no, I mean, surprisingly, they didn't end up doing that, which is one of those, like, does the dog die?
I was just about to say that.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks, IMDb.
Which, I mean, yeah, you know, for sake of certain people, I guess that is like a touchy thing.
Yeah, we came here to see people die and get tortured. We don't want to see...
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. But if you're going to kill a cat in front of me...
It's gloves
disgusting.
Off. And the same thing with Ellie. Ultimately, you know, I mean, again, it's great. The amount of alluding to the previous Evil Deads, I love.
Yeah.
But we definitely, both of us thought when she's in the elevator and the wires string her up, that it was going to be original Evil Dead, you know.
How do we say this without violating community guidelines? But, you know, violation. Which has happened in all the movies, which I was waiting for it, and it didn't happen. And I do think that's a good thing that the horror community has jumped on, specifically with feminine characters, is that, like, you can illustrate that someone's body has been violated, has been taken away from them, has made them uncomfortable without
essay,
which I think everyone's kind of got, because there's always some ways of being like, it adds to the story, but you can, clearly this movie can show that this can happen, we can explain this without it being...
And we can feel the torment without having to go into graphic, needlessly graphic.
Yes.
And I think that the fact that I was starting to get to a point too that like you don't want to make like it's one thing is if it's a tip of the hat. You don't want to make everything verbatim to the original or to the other movies in the series. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they went the route of just snapping her to pieces was
in true horror form.
Refreshing, I would say.
Thank you.
Now, I do want to go into the Necronomicon a little bit because obviously I missed something that you caught and I did not realize.
Now that I'm the one that caught it, I'm starting to gaslight myself, but I believe because to answer your question when we were getting ready for tonight, you were asking like, what was the Necronomicon doing here?
Yeah.
At the basement of a LA apartment building that had just gotten exposed by the earthquake. And I think that draws back to the story of Danny explaining to his younger sister that, you have to keep change in your pocket or else this evil, banker that used to haunt these halls is going to come get you, or something to that sort of story, which is why I think that this was probably a selfish banker that discovered this book, probably kept it to make a lot of money.
Away,
or to sell it or whatever.
Just artifacts and that kind of stuff, yeah.
Wanted to read it for himself, got possessed, probably put into that vault, guarded with all the crucifixes and that creepy Jesus statue.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Boof.
So I could tell everyone in that movie theater that had to make their Holy Communion just shiver when that thing popped out. But to me, that's essentially, I don't think that people add in those weird stories just to fill the silence in movies. I'm sure that was some way to describe how that got there, was that some banker kept it there. He died or whatever through the demon. They shut it away, blessed it, whatever, kept it to never be discovered again, only for those floors to be opened up after an earthquake.
Conveniently. See, that would be the part where I would think like the spirits that be within the Necronomicon or the demons or whatever would be like kind of guiding their way out. Like using
like they made the earthquake,
yeah. Either made it or they used it as a means to lure somebody to find it. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
But
which should be ignored.
It is an interesting. I will say, my take on it was that was just sort of folklore. It didn't necessarily have an attachment to the story, and that's why I was so like when you told me that, I was like, that's an interesting concept, and it makes sense why there's a story about this evil banker dude. But that is like definitely not at all how I took that in the very beginning. So it's something, tell us in the comments if you believe that's the case or not.
To me, I don't like, that's why I usually add those things, because I would think that no one would just throw in that story.
Right, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
who knows? I mean, maybe, yeah. I wouldn't, doubt that aspect of it. I mean, that all kind of makes sense more than it just being superstitious.
I mean, it got Danny's curiosity, which and the part in the movie where they're like, "It's not your fault. It's your fault, Danny. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're a great kid and you're just a kid. Totally get it. That was all you."
I did notice too, the Necronomicon did not have a face this time, which was interesting. But it had teeth.
Is it part of a series?
There's multiple books.
Necronomicon Book Club.
Oh, Lord. But yeah, and the little bit more fun tidbit of Easter eggs. Bruce Campbell being one of the priests on that record.
Wow.
I did not know that.
KK.
But that is nice that he's still somehow involved. I was waiting for the, in the 2013 one at the very end, there's just that one clip, it pans up to him and he's like, groovy, and that's it. So I was waiting for something like that. I'm glad that they somehow incorporated him.
KK and Luna Reaper.
What, Bartholomew?
What is the final verdict?
Evil Dead Rise brutalizes its way into an already gutsy franchise, and does so in a shocking but inviting way for fans of the Evil Dead films and newcomers craving all the carnage they can stomach.
The inciting incident was a little abrupt, but we all know that's not what we came to see. The passing of the chainsaw and boomstick was exciting and horrifically graphic, and for that, we give this film a 9 out of 10.
That's our show. Thanks for tuning in.
And until next time, Ghosts and Ghouls, have a frightful eve.